everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Charlene and this is my little YouTube channel where I talk mainly about books, also with a little bit of travel and lifestyle. And I'm really excited because today I'm going to be talking to you about a book that's been recommended to me by a fellow YouTuber slash booktuber who I absolutely adore. So I can't wait to start telling you all about it. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and like I said, I'm so excited because today I'm going to be starting some new types of videos where I talk about books that have been recommended to me by booktubers and YouTubers who I follow and who I adore. And today I'm really excited because I'm going to be talking about a book that's been recommended to me by Brogan Tate. So if you don't know who Brogan is, where have you been? She's been making videos on YouTube for I think 10 plus years. She's been around for a long time and I've been watching her for many years, and she's the most wonderful content creator. So she does videos surrounding home, travel, lifestyle, and also with some Disney videos, which I absolutely love, and she makes them with her husband Benji, and they're the most wonderful couple. But Brogan is so open and she's friendly and she's one of those people that you feel like you know her. I feel like she's my friend because I've watched her for that long, and also she's just so wholesome and lovely, and I love every bit of content that she creates. So I really wanted to start off this series with Brogan because I absolutely love her and I love her videos and I trust any recommendations that she has to make. Another thing about Brogan is that she loves reading. She's a big reader. She set up a separate Instagram page as well for her books, as well as her normal Instagram page, and she's very much into reading. She's got like a little home library and she's got her Kindle and she's got an amazing reading setup. So I really knew that when I wanted to start asking other people for book recommendations that Brogan absolutely had to be on my list. Like I said, I've been watching Brogan for a really long time, so when I got this idea to reach out to content creators to ask for their book recommendations, I knew that Brogan had to be on my list. And being the absolutely wonderful, lovely person that she is, she did actually message me back when I messaged her. So I'm gonna put it on the screen, but also I'm gonna read you the message that I sent her. Hey Brogan, as you know, I'm a huge fan of your videos and watch them religiously. I've just started a book YouTube page myself and I'd love to know a book that you'd recommend me to read. It could be anything at all, your favourite book ever or a book you're loving at the moment, but I'd love to know and then read it. Thanks so much. So she came back saying, she's sent me the page which all of her book stuff is on, which is great. But she also said, if you haven't read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo yet, that would be my recommendation. Enjoy. So I went and picked up The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I wanted to look a little bit more into what she thought about the book. So I went on her video where she spoke about it, and these are some of the things that she said. Just wrote myself a little note. So she said that it is one of her most highly recommended books. So this book is the one that she recommends to friends and family and anybody who ask her for recommendations the most. So that is always a good start. She said it was gripping and it had her hooked from the start, and it was dramatic. It's one of the best books that she's ever read. She didn't want it to end, and she gave it 5 stars. So some of you may have seen I did a video where I found a book swap shed which was close to me, and when I got in there I was like, I'm not sure if there's going to be anything in here that's for me, and then I saw this book sitting on the shelf and I was like, this is perfect, because she hadn't long sent me that recommendation. And I obviously, if I can avoid buying books, then for my wallet and the environment, that's the best thing to do. So when I saw this book, I was like, absolutely, yes, this one's coming home with me. So I've looked up on Goodreads and I'm going to give you a little bit of information and a few details and read you the blurb of the book before we get into my thoughts on it. So on Goodreads, it has got an average rating of 4.4 stars, which is really high. I think that people tend to be a little bit harsh on Goodreads, so I think that is an amazing score. And let me just start with giving you the blurb. So, reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving show business in the 80s, and of course the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. So before I jump into the plot and the characters and what I thought about the book and everything, I just want to start by saying that I would never have picked this book up off my own back. This doesn't look like something that I would think would be up my street. It's one of those things. This is the whole reason that people say you don't judge a book by its cover, because if I'd seen this sitting on a shelf, I would have just thought, oh, it's just like some kind of like throwaway, like trashy book. And that's just so wrong of me to make that assumption. But I just don't think that this would have ever jumped out to me, because I'm more of like a thrillers kind of person, and I like things that are a little bit creepy, and I just probably wouldn't have seen this and thought that this is for me. But this is why I love book recommendations so much, because without Brogan's recommendation, I would have never picked this up. And if I'd seen this in the book swap shed, I would have just kept on walking and found something else. But because she'd made me that recommendation, I grabbed it, and I am so glad that I did. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the plot and the characters and some of the themes of the book, but I want to do it in a spoiler-free way because I don't want to ruin it for anybody else who hasn't read it. And also, it's really nice when I put out videos like this and people are like, oh, I hadn't ever thought of reading that, and then they go and read it for themselves and they really enjoyed it or formed their own thoughts about it. So I just don't want to ruin anything for anybody. So I'm going to give you a very brief overview of this book. So, The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Like I said, never ever a book that I would have imagined picking up myself, but this book is a fiction book, obviously, and it tells the story of Evelyn Hugo. And Evelyn Hugo is a bombshell starlet Hollywood icon throughout the 50s all the way through to the 80s. And in my mind, the way that they describe her is like a more kind of tan-skinned Latino version of Marilyn Monroe. Somebody so beautiful and exotic, and she has men and women falling at her feet, and she's just an absolute icon. So that's who she is in my head. So Evelyn Hugo, this story tells about her tale of trying to make it work in Hollywood, from her very beginnings, where she's a very innocent, naive young girl trying to break into Hollywood to become an actress, and all throughout her life in Hollywood, and about the tales of what Hollywood's like, what acting is like, the politics that go on behind the scenes, which I never would have imagined in a million years would be a thing, but obviously they are. And I know this book is fictional, but still those stories and those themes come from somewhere. So that was very interesting to me. The book is kind of divided into the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and that really follows the 7 marriages that she had in her life, but also those are different phases of her life. So this book is really not just about the 7 people that Evelyn Hugo married. This is about her life from start to finish with those 7 marriages involved. And it goes through those 7 marriages, those 7 husbands, the reasons that they got married, the reasons that they divorced or broke up or whatever happened. It also tells her story of her acting career and all of the films that she's involved with, and her friendships, her life, her ups and downs, the highs of being an icon in Hollywood and the absolute massive lows of having that pressure and being in the spotlight and trying to lead a different life that's not necessarily one in front of the cameras. As the blurb said as well, this goes into a great forbidden love that she had in her life. And that storyline, I have to say, was kind of heartbreaking. It was up and it was down, and it was not straightforward at all. And it was messy, and it was realistic, and it was beautiful. And the way that that storyline kind of goes up and down in those low moments, particularly at the end of the book, really tugged on my heartstrings. It was very emotional in places, and actually I did shed a little bit of a tear once or twice throughout this book, which I would never ever have suspected. But it really did a great job at making you really know the ins and outs of Evelyn Hugo. There were times when I didn't even really like her that much, because she's quite a selfish, self-absorbed person in some aspects, and she's quite ruthless and brutal. But then also there are some times where she's just so human and so natural and normal, you can't help but love her and really feel for her throughout all of these different relationships and all of these things that's happening in her life. One thing that I thought was really interesting in this book was that, yes, it goes through all of her different relationships and her husbands and her relationships that she has in between those and everything, but it's also about her relationship with herself, how she feels about herself, and what obviously this is set in the way of like she's a Hollywood icon, so it's like what she feels like about herself in relation to what the media says about her. But I think that reflects as well as to a lot of women and a lot of men as well, like how we feel about ourselves because of what we're told is right or wrong or attractive or desirable in the media. So that was really a very, very interesting thing to me. I think very, very important as well. And there are lots and lots of themes within this book that I just did not expect. And it was just so much more in-depth and involved than I thought it would be. So some of the themes throughout this book, obviously there's the themes of love. That goes without saying because this goes through and details her 7 husbands, so 7 marriages, but there's also relationships in between those which are fascinating. There's friendships, there's other loves of her life, there's a main love of her life which is just, like I said, that's the heartbreaking one. So I think love is the overriding theme of the book, but then there's also a lot of other themes, like there's a lot of sexism, there's a lot of like sexuality issues as well. Like you think about those times when this book is set between the 50s to the 80s, sexuality was really something that isn't as, and I know we're still a long, long way to go, but it was not something that was so openly accepted as it is these days. So sexuality and people's sexual preferences and things like that, that's a big theme throughout the book. There's also so many things, like I said, I wish I could tell you everything, but I don't want to give anything away. But like I said, like the media, body imagery, the way that women feel about themselves, and I'm not saying that it's just women, it is men too, but the way that we're made to feel about ourselves and the worth we give ourselves from what the media says is socially acceptable and desirable and all of that. It's so interesting because it goes into so much depth about all of the hidden secret things that happen in Hollywood that I'm obviously just super naive, but I never would have imagined that they happen. But of course things like that happen. And yes, I know this is a fictional book, but still it's based on a lot of truths that happen in Hollywood. So for example, things like marriages being false, like set up to create a narrative that, you know, they just want to sell films, or they want to hide somebody's sexuality, or they want to, whatever reason it is, there's lots of things like that. And like all the heartbreaking things. And it made me really think about in life when you see a news article about a celebrity and you automatically judge that person from what you're reading, but it could be so far removed from the truth, and it could be nothing at all related to what's really going on in that person's life. And it just really made me realize that obviously celebrities are human, and they're trying to navigate this life just like we are. So I thought that was a really important and interesting aspect of the book as well. As well as that, the book also touches on things like substance abuse and death, and just there really is everything that you can imagine about a life story is involved in this book. And that's what it was like. This character was so well rounded for me that it was like, genuinely, it was like reading somebody's life story. So like I said, the book is divided into those sections where it's like phases of Evelyn's life, but there's also newspaper articles because obviously she's a famous Hollywood icon, so there's newspaper articles, and it's all told from her point of view. But it's so interesting to see somebody's life in the limelight from start to finish, and how their attitude changes and how people's attitude towards them changes throughout that time as well. So character-wise, obviously the main character is Evelyn Hugo. She's the Hollywood icon and the starlet. The whole story is told through her eyes and from her perspective, and everything is about her. It's basically like a biography, but a fictional biography, and I loved that. I thought that was super interesting, and it just tells her story from the beginning of her life to the end of her life, going into Hollywood, her life throughout Hollywood, and her life after Hollywood as well. And the reason that we are able to read this book is because at the end of her life, in her late 80s, she is enlisting the help of a girl called Monique, who is writing her story for her, and that is the story that we're reading. It's her biography. So Monique is another very important character in this book. Monique is a journalist in her mid-30s, and she is working at a newspaper, like a magazine, and she's really not been around it for that long. She's not that well respected in her company, so it's kind of weird that Evelyn reaches out and chooses Monique specifically, but she is gonna have her life and her career changed around by this story. So Monique is a very interesting character as well, actually, because the way her story gets tangled up with Evelyn's in the end, you would just never imagine, you'd never think of. But also her story is very interesting because it's told from the perspective of somebody who is mixed race, and how she feels that she is not given the same opportunities. And that's another very interesting theme throughout the book, is her struggles as a mixed race person. Other important characters in the book include all of Evelyn's 7 husbands, her best friend Harry, and a very important person in her life called Celia. And I think those are all of the main characters. There are obviously lots of characters that pop in and out, like this is a story of her life and it's a story of Hollywood, so there's lots of other characters that pop in and out, but I think those are the most important characters throughout the story. As I said, going into this book, I really didn't have very many expectations at all. This is not the type of book that I normally reach for. It's not something that I'd ever see and pick up off the shelf. But Brogan, I'm so glad that you recommended this to me, because I'm really glad that I've read it, and it would be one that I'd highly recommend to other people as well. It was an easy read. As a slow reader, I really appreciated the fact that they were fairly short chapters. I liked that it was intersected with like newspaper clippings and things like that. That really added to the story and made it really nice and well-rounded. I just really enjoyed reading this book, and every time I picked it up, you know, some books you pick up and it's a struggle to read, and it never felt like that. It felt enjoyable. I felt like I was looking forward to reading it every day, and I notice when I'm enjoying something more, I read for a little bit longer than I normally would. And I was reading a little bit more of this every night than I'd normally be reading if it was a different book. And I just really enjoyed the book as a whole. Like I said, it's nothing I would ever thought that I would be reading or enjoying, but that's why I love book recommendations so much. And whatever you recommend to me, I'll give it a bash and I'll read it, because you find some absolute hidden gems and it helps you explore other areas, you know, and other books that you might be missing. So Brogan, thank you so much for recommending The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo to me. Brogan scored this a 5 out of 5 stars. And I think for me, I really enjoyed it. Like, I really enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed the characters. I enjoyed the themes. It was emotional. It was fun to read. It was interesting. It was scandalous. It was gossipy. I really loved it. And for me, I'm going to land on giving it a 4 out of 5 stars. And that, in my rating, 4 out of 5 stars is very good. And my 5 stars, I'm a stickler for 5 stars. Like, 5 stars for me is reserved for what, like peak books like The Secret History and Misery and things like that. So this book's done really well to get to 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm so glad that I read it. I'd really highly recommend that you read it. You can probably, I feel like I'm banging on about this a little bit. You can probably hear my enthusiasm for this book. I'm so glad that I read it. I'm going to put it back to the book swap shed because that's where I got it from, and it's only right that somebody else gets the chance to read this. But if you are feeling like you want to read something interesting and you want to read a woman's story and you want to read something that's easy reading and not too heavy and it's just like a fun read, then I'd really highly recommend The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. If you have read that book, please let me know what you thought in the comments, but of course let me know spoiler free because I don't want to give it away for anybody else. If you watch Brogan as well and you know that she has any other books that she recommends highly, then of course let me know. Chat to me in the comments. I absolutely love chatting to you guys. It's my highlight of my day. I find it so fun when I get a little comment, so thank you so much. And I'd really appreciate you if you'd like this video, and love you forever and ever if you would follow my little channel. I'm very close to 1,000 subscribers, which I don't know how that's happened, but I'm here for it. So if you want to give me a little follow, I'd massively appreciate that. And just thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in my next video, and I hope you've enjoyed this today, something a little bit different. And I'm really excited to do other book recommendations by other YouTubers and BookTubers, and I've got a couple lined up, which I'm very excited for. So I hope you've enjoyed this today. I've absolutely loved doing this video. I found it so interesting, as you can probably hear from my babbling on. But I will leave it there, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!